75. Awful gut feelings that turned out to be true. According to Reddit. Number 75. Got invited to a party once. Got showered, got dressed, everything, but when I went to get in the truck, I got sick. Sick as hell. I'm talking immediately. Nauseated, lightheaded, seeing spots, the works. Well, I went to lie down because I could barely walk, much less party. I get a text from my buddy that they're later on saying that there was a massive brawl and like 3 people in my friends group got stabbed and cut up pretty bad. As soon as I read that, I felt perfectly fine. Trust your body, boys and girls. It knows best. Bing bong. Number 74. Interviewed at a Vector Marketing, which is a pyramid scheme, in case you guys don't know, a long time ago. I got mad pyramid scheme vibes, hilarious, but I needed money and they don't actually make you buy anything up front, so the only risk was wasting time and bus fare. It was a pyramid scheme and I wasted time and bus fare. Well, there you go. Number 73. One night I was trying to sleep, but I was reckless. That says restless. Same difference. I was crazy restless. I started crying. I had such dreadful feelings inside me that I just knew something was wrong. I woke up my boyfriend and explained my feelings. It was something horrible. And I kept touching the middle of our bed, saying, right here. My head feels funny, I feel dizzy, and my legs, they aren't working right. I couldn't shake it, but I managed to fall asleep. When I woke up, my arms felt weird. I held them out and looked at them over and over. They just weren't right. An hour later, I got a phone call. My ex-husband, the father of my children, had suffered a massive stroke that night in his bed. Wow. I wonder what would cause a connection to the lady's ex. Interesting. Well, as we continue up, number 72. Wait a minute. They removed it. Cuck. Everyone's always removing their posts. Jesus Christ. Number 70. Growing up, my dad taught my brother and I how to hunt. When I was around 12 or 13, my dad bought us a couple of shotguns as a Christmas present. He got a good deal of a guy who he heard about through a friend of a friend. This guy was a gun enthusiast with a federal firearms license. Along with his gun hobby, he was an amateur pornographic photographer. After buying the shotguns, we wanted to go to the range to shoot them, and this guy actually knew of a public range and asked if we wanted to go shooting. My dad, brother, and I loaded up in the truck to go pick this guy up from his house, and on the way, my dad warned us that he was a little strange. Well, we got to this house and went inside. There were cardboard boxes stacked damn near to the ceiling everywhere in his small town home. His wife was crying, and he was yelling at her to shut her mouth. I'm assuming she was upset that he was leaving to go shoot guns when he had a horrible mess at home and a newborn baby. We jumped in the vehicle and headed out towards the range. He was talking a mile a minute about guns, popping strange pills along the way. My brother and I looked at each other and just laughed as he would go on about the weirdest shit. We spent a couple of hours at the range and headed home for the day. We just knew there was something seriously wrong with the guy and decided not to go shooting with him or even deal with this guy ever again. A few months later, I was on the school library computer and I noticed a familiar face on the news homepage. The same guy had scheduled a photo shoot with a model from Canada, and after some kind of dispute about money, he stabbed her a bunch of times and dumped her body in a creek. Pretty sure he's doing life now. Damn. Life in the gay baby slammer. Oh, damn. As we continue up, we arrive at number 69. Ooh, yeah, ladies. This is hyper weird, but as a kid, and much less frequently now as an adult, I had severe deja vu, but not in the traditional sense. It was almost like months or years before the event. I would have a dream, and then after the event or during the event, I would remember the dream I had that was actually about the event that was unfolding. The best example was when my brother got third-degree burns all over his body and had to get flown to the Sydney Children's Hospital. Camping at Wyangla Dam in our caravan, we were playing Pictionary. My brother was smashing it, and his last attempt was stumping us all. The answer was the TV show Neighbors, and as soon as the answer came out, I remembered a dream where the Pictionary answer was Neighbors, but couldn't remember what happened afterwards, except that something really bad was about to happen. It was weird because the feeling was so heavy, and then 5 minutes later the jug falls, and the rest is history. I remember Neighbors so vividly from this dream, like memory, but knew something bad was going to happen because I remember the feelings of dread associated after. Other examples where when I knew my granddad had passed away, as I had a dream about my mom crying and walking through our front gates, and when I actually saw her crying and coming home, I just knew the dream came true. The way my young mind rationalized this was that we were living a memory that happened before the event. We have experienced this already, but life has like a delay similar to radio. Sounds stupid, but it's all I've got. Ugh. Hello everyone. Tiffy cakes. Candy stripes. Oh. Faith. Aw. Big Worm Kevin. Damn. Here's hoping you're all having a wonderful Halloween. Number 68. I used to own a cat. Ooh, so spooky. It was a stray cat that came to us for food and affection. We've had multiple strays like this, but this one was different. A year after she first came to us, she got hit by a car. We found her and took her inside, which we didn't allow first. She recovered, and you could tell she was so grateful. We had her for another 4 to 5 years until last year. About a year ago, I woke up from a sound outside my window. There is a big farm a bit further up the street, so it's not unusual for trucks to drive by in the middle of the night. But that day, I had the feelings that this sound wasn't a truck. I couldn't sleep for the rest of the night because of this feeling. And the first thing I did in the morning after was look outside if I could see something. There was nothing, but all day long I was stuck with this feeling something was not right. When my dad came home about that evening, I asked him if he saw the cat. He did not. About an hour after, he called me and said these exact words, "I think we have a problem." That moment I knew. He found the cat in the bedroom of our house, hiding for rain under a metal plate. Interesting. It couldn't walk anymore, but it still lived. My dad took her to the vet and left it there so they could take some pictures and do some tests. Only 20 minutes after he came home, they called already. It appeared her spine got cut in two, and the bottom part of her body got awfully fucked up. There was nothing they could do. My dad told me there was nothing I could have done, but only if I had searched better that morning. It shouldn't have spent the whole day alone in the rain. I feel so guilty for that. I always tell myself I'm a dog person, but damn, I loved that cat. I haven't really told this to anyone since it happened, and it feels good to finally share this. And now the obligatory English is not my first language, so be gentle. Be gentle. Number 67. Leaving a family camping trip, something felt wrong before I left. I ignored it. Still, it was bugging me, and it was dark, so I drove slower than normal. Turn a curve, and there's this deer in the road. Just fucking standing there, staring at a huge-ass field of soybeans. Even driving slower, I didn't have time to stop. I wrecked my hood, busted my radiator, and cracked my windshield. This buck was huge, like fat huge. If I'd been driving faster, I could have done more damage or even injured or killed myself. Perks of the country life, yo. Well, isn't that something? As we proceed onward to number 66. Ooh, 66. I was sitting down to lunch with a couple of friends while we were all still in college. We had just got out of line at Chick-fil-A in the student commons when I felt this awful prickling sensation all down my neck and back. Promptly, I told my friends to pack it in that we could walk up to the concourse to my place and eat there. They obliged, and as we were walking out, about 9 or 10 cops walked past us into the building to begin evacuation due to a bomb threat. Damn, baby. Perhaps someday I'll be regarded to someone as the bomb. But as we continue up this list of 75 awful gut feelings that turned out true, we're arriving at little old 65. Hilariously, it's not even this person's story. It's a story that they copy and pasted. I guess the last time somebody asked this question, this one did well. So let the karma harvest begin. It was near Halloween. How interesting. My friends and I were telling ghost stories. My friend said she was going to tell us a story about her parents' first date. Oh my god. It's gonna be the serial killer. I've seen this. I've read this myself in other lists. Ugh. She said she didn't like telling the story since it was actually true, but we prodded her on. To cut to the chase, the parents had spent a nice, if awkward, first date, and around the time they would have said goodnight, the male in the situation, my friend's dad, suggested that they go for a midnight hike up Provo Canyon. He apparently knew the place, since he had done a fair amount of rock climbing in the area. So, the two drove up the mouth of the canyon, got out of their cars, and started hiking under just the light of the stars, since it was a new moon. At some point, the male starts getting a bad feeling, since the pathway ahead, which would pass under some trees, would be dark, and because it was getting quite late. Well, he ignores the feelings and presses on. In later rehearsings of the story, the female would say that she felt the same feeling, and that was probably the same time, though she didn't know the trail like he did. A minute later, the feeling came back to the male. He ignored it again and started walking a bit of the way into the trees when his foot hit something soft in the middle of the path. Under the trees, it was too dark to see just what the soft thing was, and the feeling came back stronger than ever. Instead of finding out what his foot had just bumped into, he and the female both agreed to hightail it out of there. Years later, after being married for some time, they were watching an interview with serial killer Ted Bundy. Necrophiliac Ted Bundy. In response to a question asking him to describe the time that he felt the closest to being caught, he explained about the night that he lured a girl into Provo Canyon and had just killed her when he heard some people coming up the trail. He explained that he hid in the trees just in time, only to watch some guy walk right into the body, and for some reason just turn around and walk away. I implore you all, in the event that some dank shit happens to you, you should probably just turn around and walk away. Maybe you can substitute walk for run. As we continue, we arrive at number 64. I'll throw out an opposite one. This was in the late 1990s, boarding a flight from Dallas to Denver. It's evening. The women behind me are clearly worried about the flying and it's annoying me, so I grab a book and read it to distract myself. No electronics. On takeoff then, remember? Anyway, we take off, and pretty quickly after we take off, the plane slows down and the flight attendant gets up from the back and scurries to the front. The ladies behind me are again panicking. That's not normal. And I'm just rolling my eyes. You always slow down a bit after takeoff. My gut says we're cool. Then after about 2 minutes, the plane executes a really sharp turn and the pilot comes on the announcer. Okay, this isn't normal now. Ladies and gentlemen, we're returning to the airport. Please ensure your seatbelts are fastened. Quiet envelops us for a bit. And then he comes on again to tell us what happened. We lost an engine. This happens all the time. Oh, and you may notice a few emergency vehicles on the runway, but that's normal procedure. As we land, I see what looks like every single fire truck at Dallas-Fort Worth lined up beside the runway. We land without a major issue, people clap, and then the pilot breaks us the real news. So I've trained for this many times in simulators, but it's a once-in-a-career experience for a commercial airline pilot. So my gut was wrong. I was sure that there was nothing wrong, and there was. Bing bong. As we continue up, we arrive at number 63. How about that? Posted this before, but when I was doing my PhD, I got offered the chance to go to the Central European University summer school program to do a course that would be extremely valuable. I even got offered a full scholarship. Is that right? He got a full scholarship to do the course and free accommodations, etc. What an amazing deal. 2 weeks before I was supposed to leave, I said to my boyfriend at the time, something is telling me I shouldn't go. And I was like, what the fuck, brain? This is the opportunity of a lifetime. But the don't go feeling kept getting stronger. So I withdrew from the course, feeling stupid for doing it. But the day after I was scheduled to leave, my perfectly healthy mom got sick. A week later, she was in a coma. A week later, we had to turn off life support. Jesus Christ. Her funeral was a week after that. I would have been away in her last waking moments. Ugh. Number 62. I got to the airport early and got something to eat at the restaurant, boarded the plane, everyone is on, and I suddenly get a feeling of panic. Nothing else, just panic. I was used to traveling 3/4 of the month back and forth every week, so no problems flying, but in this case I had to get off that plane. I grabbed my stuff, ran past the flight attendant, and said, "Don't wait for me. I will get another flight," and sat down, trying to calm down. The announcement comes over the speaker that they are looking for me. My flight is leaving. It leaves. I watch the flight start to take off. This was in Detroit, by the way. Then it happened. The worst cramps I've ever had. Ran to the bathroom. Food poison from the restaurant. I would have been on a 2-hour flight stinking up the plane while ejecting the contents of my stomach from both ends, and I am sure the entire passenger compartment thanks me, though they do not know. The hero we need, but not the one we deserve. Right, meow. Number 61. I was at a bar in October of 2013 or 2014, if I recall. Anywho, I live in a particularly rough neighborhood at the time, and I was enjoying a few drinks and such a day before Halloween night. Ooh. I had this horrible feeling of uneasiness looming in the back of my mind, so I told my buddies I'm turning in for the night. They called me the following morning and informed me that the bar had gotten shot up and like 3 people were injured. Ooh. It was about 2 hours after I left. Number 60. When I was in high school, I had gone to a party with some friends. From the moment we got there, something felt off. I bugged my friends to leave and tried to explain that something just felt off. Well, I was able to bug them for us all to leave by bribing them with Steak and Shake. We found out the next day that a bunch of police came about 15 minutes after we left and arrested most of the kids as well as a group of guys who were drunk and who were caught raping a girl while she was passed out drunk. So glad we got the fuck out of there. Oh my god. That doesn't count as a rape entry. Nice try, list. Nice try. Where are tonight's big titties? Tonight's spooky big titties. Number 59. When I was in university, I was walking home from the bars in the Byward Market in Ottawa with my roommate at the time. It was about 2:30 a.m., and we were looking forward to getting home and ordering some pizza when we came across 2 guys and a very drunk girl. Initially, we didn't think anything about it because it was a pretty common sight on a Friday, but as we walked behind them for a few minutes, we noticed how out of it she was. One of the guys was essentially carrying her, and her clutch was loosely dangling from her limp wrist. Our street came up, but instead of turning down it, we decided to see what was going on. The guys explained that she was one of their girlfriends and had too much to drink, so they were taking her home. We asked them a few more questions: what bar they were at, where she lived, if she was an Ottawa U student, etc. They gave pretty convincing answers, but all the same seemed really uncomfortable and wanted us to go away. During the conversation, the guy holding his girlfriend shifted her position to get a better grip, which caused her arm to dangle down and drop her clutch. Before they could move, my roommate grabbed the clutch and took out her ID. My roommate then asked if they knew her first name and last name along with her birthday. This is where things changed. The other guy got really aggressive and confrontational, while the other guy went silent. They didn't know her name or birthday. You put name last, dude. To not know a chick's birthday is the less alarming thing than not knowing her name if you're claiming to be her boyfriend. The guy dropped her and took off running. We waited with her for about 10 minutes until the EMS and police got there. We gave a statement but did not have much to go on other than their descriptions. The police told us that they suspected she had been dosed, which is fucking, date raped. She'd been fucking drugged, and that she was lucky we happened to be walking behind her. Pretty scary stuff. My word. Number 58. As a young boy, my mom would always get my opinion on a new babysitter and their home. We would go meet with them before she would trust them with taking care of me. She took me to meet the local woman who lived in a trailer home with her husband and 2 daughters, to see if we were a good fit. Even as young a child as I was, around 3 years old, I got really bad vibes from the place, despite everything on the surface seeming clean, normal, and comfortable. I acted like I really enjoyed being there and was looking forward to the new babysitter, but there was a portrait of Jesus on the wall. Jesus! Ain't nothing scarier than Jesus. You know what I mean? These are the framed pieces you see at thrift stores all the time. More than anything, it just gave me the creeps. It felt like a warning, rather than a welcome. When we get into our car, I immediately started crying. I started screaming at my mom, "I don't want to go there. Please don't make me come here ever again."
Why? What's wrong?
"I just don't like it, Mom. I'm 3 years old." I'm not sure on the timeline, but I believe just a few months later, the husband was arrested and sent to prison for sexually abusing both of his daughters. Fucking hell. Fucking hell. This has only just begun, but it seems we've popped its cherry. Number 57. I have sleep paralysis, and the majority of the episodes involve me laying in bed and being in the room, but not being able to move, speak, contribute to what's going on. You want to throw an or in there, you bitch? Most of these episodes happened in college, and I would see roommates come and go, sit at their desks, climb in and out of their bunks, etc. But I never knew for sure if what was going on in my dream was actually happening or not. Fast forward to mid-20s, and I'm having one of these dreams. I'm laying in bed in my apartment that I shared with my girlfriend. This time I am visualizing her coming home. She worked late nights, much later than she usually would. See me and immediately break down in regret of why the hell did I just do that? That's how I feel about what this idiot just wrote. So we're going to try and read it again, but make sense of what they wrote. So hopefully this is what he meant. This time I am visualizing her coming home. She works late nights, much later than she normally would. She sees me and immediately breaks down in regret of why the hell did I just do that? I knew what she was regretting. She had cheated on me again. You cuck. So moving on to later that day, it's all I can think about, and even though my dream hadn't actually happened, I knew that she cheated on me regardless. Turns out, after confronting her about it, I was right, and we broke up that day. Ugh. Jesus Christ. Lexia says that he wishes more trick-or-treaters came to his house. Hopefully you have enough to make a very nice leather jacket. And hopefully all of their skin colors weren't too different, so that the jacket will seem uniform, if you know what I mean. You'd have to be a creep, Kyle. Well, nobody likes me anyway. I'm kidding. I love you guys. I know you love me. I love you. Oh my god. Number 56. Christmas Day here. That's the wrong holiday, motherfucker. My family and I had packed the car with all the goods, and we're just about to be on our way to my grandparents' house. The car wouldn't start. Let's back up. Okay. The whole day I felt I was in a trance or a dream. I kept feeling off, and the night before I had a dream that we were driving on a bridge. Our tire popped. We slid, and the car slammed into my side of the vehicle. I remember it so vividly because I see the headlights coming at me in my head still. I get prophetic dreams a lot. But I really don't think of it much because I also suffer from nightmares. Anyway, we call AAA. Meanwhile, I'm refusing to get out of the car because everything feels off. The guy gets there, tells us it was our battery, so he charged it. I still felt very off, but seeing as this fixed the problem, I get in. He turns around and says to my mom, I just want to check your tire pressure for some reason. Not kidding. And he said one of the front tires was extremely high. And was, I quote from the AAA dude, about to pop if we were to drive, especially on a highway or turnpike. He fixed that too, free of charge. The feeling of being uneasy and dreamlike faded, and I felt fine. Made it to grandparents' house. Awesome mashed potatoes. I want some mashed potatoes. Want some mashed potatoes. As we continue up the list of 70 awful gut feelings that turned out true, we arrive at number 55. For months, I had suspicions that this guy I am frenemies with had committed some sort of sexual perversion, and over the weekend, that turned out to be true. Somebody said Kevin Spacey is a real dick. But he's gay, guys, you know? So if you're like most of the women, that's one less guy that you can send your boobs to. That's not me, you know? Jeez. Kevin Spacey like a da boys. He like a da boys. Number 54. A couple of years back, I got a stomach ache. I'm not normally prone to them, so it felt a little strange.
Some love for Yo Ask Kyle.
I appreciate you, Swans Gruberman. You're all I'm about. Thank you for that. On this the night of Halloween. Number 54. A couple of years back, I got a stomach ache. I'm not normally prone to them, so it felt a little strange. When the pain moved to my side, I knew something was wrong. So I called the doctor, who called me in for an emergency appointment. I was worried it might be appendicitis, and he agreed. I got there, got prodded and poked, and was told that there was nothing wrong with me. If it was really your appendix, you wouldn't be able to sit there and talk to me. Fair enough, so I go home. Later that night, I start throwing up, so I knew something was wrong, so off to the hospital I go. The complete bitch of a doctor prodded and poked around again and declared it was just a stomach bug. Maybe a urine infection? Told me to drink some flat Coke and go to the doctor in the morning. Bear in mind, I'm so pale as to be actually gray by this point and can barely hold down any more than a couple sips of water. Later in the morning, I'm still not feeling right, so I get my significant other to take me to the doctor again. More of the usual prodding and, well, it's probably an infection, but I'm going to refer you to the hospital just in case. So I go to the hospital. Long story short, I have a whole bunch of tests, but they're still not convinced it was appendicitis. I was, by this point. They eventually agreed to do the appendectomy using keyhole surgery. So I go down for the operation, which they reckon will take an hour or so. And don't be surprised if you still have an appendix when you wake up. We're going to have a look first. I woke up about 6 hours later with a 4-inch incision on my side with a tube sticking out of it rather than 3 small holes I'd been told to expect. I asked the nurse what had happened and got an, "Oh yes, your appendix was really bad apparently. I think it burst as they were removing it." Holy shit, these things are time bombs, and I'm legitimately scared. So yeah, not only did I have appendicitis, like I thought, but I had it really bad. I ended up in the hospital for another week, being treated for sepsis. Oh my god, motherfucker. Toxic motherfucker. Jesus Christ. Oh my god. As we travel up to number 53, I had this feeling of dread watching my twin sister walk down the driveway to get into her car and visit her boyfriend a couple of towns over. I knew she shouldn't.
Some ask for your love, Kyle.
Nice ass. And thank you for that donation of 666 or $6.66. I don't think it gets any danker than 666. As we continue, number 53. I had this feeling of dread watching my twin sister walk down the driveway to get in the car and visit her boyfriend a couple of towns over. I knew she shouldn't go. It stormed, and my mother insisted that she try to make it home. She tried, and she flew off an icy turnpike in the middle of the night. She was absolutely fine and believes me about my spidey sense now. Well, your mother should have been responsible for trying to kill her. What kind of mom demands that their kid travels through a storm? What a bitch. What a bitch. What a stupid bitch. As we continue, number 52. My severe back pain was misdiagnosed for about 6 months, and I knew something was wrong. Seriously fucking wrong. I finally was able to get an MRI, and they found a tumor about 1.5 to 2 times the size of a softball on my spine. Softball, motherfucker? Ooh. As we continue up to number 51, my sister once called me downstairs to talk to my dad on the phone. At that time, that was pretty regular, maybe once a week. And it wasn't at all unusual, a time for it or anything. But my stomach fucking dropped. I wanted to be sick, and I really did not want to answer. It turns out my grandfather, who I liked very much, had passed away very unexpectedly. I still don't understand what it was. I got nothing from the reactions of my family because he wanted to tell me first, and it started before I saw any of them. There had been no news, medical or otherwise, about my grandfather beforehand. As we continue upward, number 50. Playing basketball and came down really bad on my leg. Couldn't walk and had to be carried off. Mom, something's wrong. Take me to the hospital. No, you're fine. It just needs time. Fast forward a week and I finally am taken to the hospital, broken tibia. Jesus, Mom, come on. Well, moms are stupid. What do you expect? Come on. This one has lots of juicy links at the bottom, so you know that it's a bing bong frublian. Pretty dank shit that's about to be read right here. Join me, why don't you, as we get insane. Number 49. We used to live in an apartment block where there was this old guy who was super friendly. He befriended my roommate and pretty much a whole bunch of other people. He kind of brought us all together with barbecues in the parking lot, and he was on the ground floor and had a little garden area. I didn't like him. I didn't know why, but the way he talked sometimes, just the way he looked. I pushed past it. I tried to tell myself I was judging a book by the cover. Well, anyway, he turned out to be abusing his partner. Roommate got involved. He assaulted her and tried to strangle her. And then we found out the name he went by wasn't his real name. We shared the same doctors. We had an appointment at a similar time, and I heard his name called. Looked him up. Several news articles about him on a page on a website identifying known pedophiles. Apparently, he assaulted several 14-year-olds, raped his... Nah, raped his parole officer? How the fuck do you get away with that? How the fuck do you get away with raping your parole officer? And described a 9-year-old girl in court, keep it together, Kyle, as sexually mature. What the fuck? Wow. Report from 2002, which I believe mentions his other offenses like raping his parole officer. What the bing bong? Nigga. Let's continue. Number 48. My mom was supposed to take me and my sister to the Natural History Museum. Since we lived just outside of London, and it was only a short bus ride. However, one day she had a horrible feeling, so we stayed home and watched movies instead. That was the day of the 7/7 bombings. Oh damn. Bombings that most people in here have no idea about because it didn't happen in America. America, fuck yeah. Terrorists, your day is through. Number 47. When my husband phoned me to say that my son-in-law's breast cancer was back. Sister-in-law's breast cancer was back. The first time she was diagnosed, I was calm and positive. She got treatment and went into remission. After the second phone call 3 years later, I had my first full-scale panic attack. Everyone else in the family stayed positive, but she died just a year later. Cancer, dude. Holy shit. I know that men can get breast cancer, Emmy. It was more about me reasoning that in this context, it couldn't have been a son-in-law. America. Number 46. We used to drive to Serbia every summer and visit my grandfather's family and stay away for a few weeks. But my grandfather's family, that year, made us leave after 2 days because she felt the need to visit her family in Finland because she thought something was wrong and we lived in Sweden. My grandparents got in a huge fight, but we left for Finland 2 days after that. When we arrived, we stayed with her father and planned to stay for a week before heading back down to Serbia. Her father died in his sleep after 2 days. After the funeral and getting family affairs in order, we decided to head down to Serbia again. On our way down, our house got accidentally hit by a bomb when NATO bombed Belgrade. You guys missed the bombing of your house to catch the death of a family member. What the hell? Wow. Number 45. It was late 2012. At Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, a sandstorm blew in, dark and foreboding, across the base. I looked across the airstrip at the new aircut hangars under construction. Aircraft, Gael. And could have sworn through the gritty sand haze that I saw one sway ever so slightly. But I had goggles on, the sand was everywhere, and I was driving a K-loader down the runway at the same time. I figured I was imagining it, and anyway, I had more important shit to focus on. Next day, I get up and catch my ride to the airfield, and sure enough, the huge steel frame they'd been building for months had collapsed in the night. Just a massive pile of steel beams and sand. Bing boom. As we continue. Number 44. My sister was sick with lupus, and it got worse and worse. One night I walked past her room and had an eerie feeling that this was her last night. It was. She passed away last Friday at 18 years old. Number 43. Christmas 2006. My girlfriend and I are at a mall shopping. I'm of the mind to get my father a watch, as he hadn't had one in a while. We literally hit every store in that mall, and I couldn't land on one to buy him. Hours spent and nothing. It was about a 45-minute drive home, and my girlfriend is frustrated with me. Why couldn't I pick one? What was going on? I pulled the car over and started crying. I couldn't explain it. I told her I don't know why I'm crying, and I don't know why I can't pick up a watch, and I don't think he's going to be around long enough to use it. Why buy a watch if he doesn't have much time left? Ended up finding one, and we had a great Christmas. In the last week of March, 3 months later, he got sick. Turned out, the MRSA infection and he passed away March 31st. I walked into the hospital room after the doctors failed to revive him to say goodbye. The watch was on the windowsill, and I grabbed it as I walked out in the hall. I remembered the premonition. Number 42. I was climbing and cutting a dead tree, box elder, also known as an ash maple. It was wedged between two houses, so I had both neighbors splitting the bill, and they were all out in the yard watching me. The wind was high, and I was moving around a lot in the canopy about 6 feet up. It was beyond seasick levels of sway, but I'm used to worse. I don't know what it was exactly that was tipping me off subconsciously. Maybe it was something about the sound of the wood creaking and that seemed off to me. Maybe when I was climbing, my spurs were making the wrong noise. The wood definitely felt solid. I never hit a mushy spot on the way up. The plan was to top it out and slide down the main stem, lowering limbs with rigging, and then flop the pole nice and neat. Everything seemed routine, but I kept getting goosebumps. It was creeping me out. I wish I could say I had a real clue, but there weren't any signs of trouble, nothing obvious. But there it was. This horrible feeling of fear. Like that feeling which is so physical, it makes you keep questioning your bladder every 5 seconds. I didn't always trust my gut, but having been taught that lesson enough times in life, I tend to go high alert these days, to the point where I'm nearly superstitious. So, I just unhooked my lanyard and came down, justified by thinking, well, it's probably lunchtime anyway. It wasn't even close. It was like 9 a.m. Could go get some kind of breakfast sandwich at McDonald's, you know what I mean? What you want to go get is the bagel. They have like a bacon, egg, and cheese bagel, but you should swap it out for sausage, egg, and cheese, and then instead of that folded bullshit egg that they give you, get the round egg. Get the bagel, sausage, egg, and cheese bagel with a round egg from McDonald's with the breakfast sauce. I gave an excuse, packed up my truck, and went home. I remember I called my old mentor whose wife had just given birth just to talk to him and see how things were going. He started talking about his baby, about how his little brother had been born premature, and they were worried about that happening. Then he rambled off on a tangent, mentioned the time his brother broke his back with a Douglas fir, decided to barber chair him while he was tied in about 20 feet up, said neither of them saw it coming. One thing that saved him was quick work on the part of their crane operator. I ate, I showered, and having run out of excuses, I finally went back. Bucked all the limbs, cut the top off, but the fear of the barber chair was ripe. I couldn't shake it, so I went the extra step of using my 5/8 line, one of my strongest rigging ropes, it holds up to 26,000 plus, to marl the base of the truck up about 30 feet. It was a massive waste of time, but whatever. Once the quote is accepted, I'm working hourly, so who cares, right? Fucking sure enough, when we went to bring the pole down, it splintered and popped open like it was only being held together by spit and chewing gum. If we hadn't reinforced it with serious mummy wrapping, I would have been hospitalized, or it would have hospitalized either me or my groundsman, and then done God knows how many tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage to the client's house. I wish I could say I learned something about tree assessment from that experience, but I didn't. It just gave me one more in the long list of examples of why I absolutely have to trust my gut and take every precaution I can. I think the vast majority of the data processing our brains do is entirely subconscious, and there's just no way for us to ever make it that a conscious process without turning ourselves into autistic savants. Don't you know that that's what the best of us are? So the best we can do is not ignore it. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. A story about the dangers of cutting fucking trees down. On this, the Kyle list of 75 awful gut feelings that turned out to be true. According to Reddit. Number 41. A friend was avoiding me, and my now ex-girlfriend was acting a little suspicious the whole day. I just knew something did not add up and decided that I needed to know what was happening. I gave my buddy a call and told him, so I spoke with insert the name of my ex today, and she told me something weird. Care to explain? He confessed, and I had to break up with both of them. How pathetic. You kids and fucking all the people around you just gotta fuck them. Gotta get your dick in there. Gotta slurp it up, huh? What are you gonna... I mean, he's got boy parts. I've got girl parts. What do you want me to do? Not do it? Jeez. Number 40. My oldest daughter, 30-something, stopped by work one day and introduced her new boyfriend. He seemed a little off to me, but I decided it was just guy dating my daughter and let it go. Later, he met my wife and she told me later that he seemed off to her too. She has pretty good instincts about people, so we decided to investigate them a bit. Typing his whole name into Google, the first result was a mugshot from a couple of years ago. The third was an active warrant. More searching resulted in finding 3 warrants from different counties and an extensive record. Check the description: theft, driving while suspended, driving after a lifetime suspension, and driving while a habitual traffic offender. And a brand new marriage license for him and my daughter. They were going to get married later that week. We, of course, told her about him, but she insisted that he'd already told her about all of it and that it had been taken care of. We emailed links to her roommate, who showed her, but she didn't have any luck talking her out of the relationship. They were in love, and everything would work out okay in the end. We sent in an anonymous tip, and he was arrested the next day at her apartment. Damn, nigga, your parents a snitch. My daughter then found out that he'd been lying to her about pretty much everything. He had entangled her in a business he was trying to start that mostly involved her financing things for him. Because his credit was trash due to records for bounced checks and theft. She's still working to untangle herself from that. He's still in jail, and according to her lawyer, will be for at least 2 years depending on what happens in 2 other counties. Stripe says, "Hey Kyle, nice to see my name in the chat, and it's nice to see yours as well." Sunflower says, "I'm back. I hope you had fun. I hope you've all been enjoying your Halloween. And I hope that you all can get naked and just relax, recharge, find a way to make yourselves wake tomorrow feeling rejuvenated." Number 39. Every time I was being cheated on, I could feel it. I was always right. This poor motherfucker. Number 38. I worked at a daycare. One of the mothers gave me the heebie-jeebies. She would show up randomly and be like,
My baby, I need my baby.
Like moms love their kids and miss them, but her obsession with her daughter really made me feel weird. She ended up killing her daughter so that she could be an angel. Shit. She ended up killing her daughter so she could be an angel. It really fucked me up when I found out. Number 37. Several years ago on Thanksgiving, my mom was becoming Morty?
Happy Halloween, Kyle.
Oh my God! Wow!
That's so hot, Lexias. Lexias, I really appreciate your donation. I want you to know you're amazing, dude. Wow. 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 I want you to know that your continuing contributions and support are what makes me doing what I do effortless. And I'm really appreciative and humbled to know someone as sweet as you, and really hope that the people in your life can unfold onto you in the way that you do to me, because we had a little bit more of the way that some of you guys treat me in the world, then it'd be a much, much better place. Aaron Deers says, Kyle, one time my cousins were trick or treating when they were 10 and a few teens stole his candy. He went to a corner store crying and the people inside bought him $100 worth of candy. That sounds like a great idea for a heist. Just get a pretty little white boy, or maybe a curvy, dark-skinned Mexican girl. Yeah. Have her go in there just like,
Ay, 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 they stole my candies. What am I going to do with my candies?
and then she jiggles. I apologize. As we continue up the list of 75 awful gut feelings that turned out true, we arrive at number 37. Several years ago on Thanksgiving, my mom was being extremely overwhelmed. The holidays have never been a great success in my family, and my parents had issues communicating, which led to a lot of stressful, intense dinners. And it wasn't them, it was someone else starting a fire. If it wasn't them. Well, this year was bad. My mom had been cooking for hours to get ready to head over to my cousin's house. My dad was yelling about how we spend too much money on the holidays. It got to a point where my mom told me and my brothers to leave for the party ahead of them. We didn't get far from the house until a really bad feeling started sinking in my stomach. I knew my brother felt something too. I said, "Can we go back?" And my older brother turned around immediately. When we got there, the father was gone. He had left out of anger, and my mom yelled at him to leave. My mother was in her bed, laying still, with an empty bottle of sleeping pills beside her. She was still conscious when we came in, but started shaking and was falling asleep. We called 911. I later learned that the pills that she had taken would have only put her to sleep for a long time, not actually killed her, but clearly it was her intent. She has and had severe depression, and after this, she got some real help. Hey guys, just a quick Kyle tidbit. If you guys are wanting to kill yourselves, don't fucking do it. I got plenty of use for you. I'm not even joking about that. If you really want to kill yourself, come talk to me. Let me see what we can do, because you can contribute in a big way. You know what I'm talking about? I love you. Wow. We really just need to have a talk if you really want to kill yourself. But hey, man, there's definitely ways to kill yourself that are quick and painless, and taking a whole bunch of pills is not them. Even if you look this up and you think that it's going to be like a quick kind of, easy solution, a good way to fuck yourself up and still be alive is to take a shitload of pills. You could paralyze yourself. You could fucking shut down certain parts of yourself and literally be incapable of, you know what I mean? It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. We're all very different. Everything has different effects on different people, and don't take a whole bunch of pills is where I'm going with this little break, okay? So let's get back in here. I apologize, all right? Number 36. I went on a high school field trip for a couple of days, and the first day we had a barbecue. There was chicken, and I didn't trust the other kids to make sure it was done well, so I passed up on it. Next day, 15 people had salmonella, ruining their entire trip. Might fall under logic instead of instinct, though. Haha. Logic instead of instinct. Lunar Lat says, hello, Kyle and chat. Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween to you too. Happy Halloween to all of you. I hope you all had a wonderful day, and that the guys that you have a crush on, or the girls that you have a crush on, gave you all of their attention, and that you're just so pleased and happy because you get to be in their life and they get to be in yours. Fucking kill yourselves, you freaking losers. I'm kidding. Happiness, may it be upon you. I'm not jealous or anything. Hate. Number 35. We were at a party at a friend's house. Is this too loud? Might be. We were at a party at a friend's place. He had a new colleague he had befriended attend. Something about this new dude just screamed insane to me. And the more he conjured up crazy racist conspiracy theories and went on about prophecies, the more I was concerned. Next day I said to my friend, "Don't be near this dude, man. He's nuts." A couple of months later, he slit his girlfriend's fucking throat outside in broad daylight and then turned the knife on his own neck when bystanders prevented his suicide. I don't like to derail my own lists, but it is my list and I'll derail it for a moment if I need to. Now, you see somebody slice somebody's fucking throat open and they're about to do it to themselves. I want that person out of this world, yes, I want them dead. The only way that I would be stopping them is if I were going to take it upon myself to torture this motherfucker. You know what I mean? But odds are I'm probably not going to be able to get away with that. So would you stop somebody that just slit somebody's throat and was about to slit their own throat? Do you know what I mean? I want to know. I want you to tell me. As we continue upwards, we arrive at number 34. My friend asked me for a ride home. I told him I wasn't going his way, and he was like, "Okay, I'll catch a ride with those people." I wasn't a huge fan of people he was going to go home with, so I said fuck it and gave him a ride. Turns out the kids who he was going to be taking him home decided to speed down a windy wooded road near his house at 80 miles per hour. They hit something, flipped the car multiple times. They all lived, but just barely. The EMT says that if they were bigger kids, they were all scrawny under 5'10", they would have been crushed. They would have been crushed. Crushing it. Slap it on some dead. They would have been crushed. I'm gonna crush some puss. Michael Davis says, "Nah, Kyle, let him die." No, that's what I'm talking about. Seems we're coming down to a typical number on a Kyle list, so what, we have probably like 40 minutes left? Depends on how long these are. Depends on how quickly I read. Let's make some progress. Number 33. Pretty simple one. Went to a party that was just shoulder to shoulder packed from the moment I arrived. I could barely move through the house. People were spilling out onto the lawn and everybody was acting a fool. Way too many people there, and I figured shit was about to go downhill fast. So I grabbed my friend and we bounced. As we were leaving, about 10 to 12 police units passed us by on the road, headed towards the party. City, county, and state police, small town, so they probably asked for help. Found out later that the party was shut down. Obviously, the police painstakingly ID'd everybody there, arrested everybody involved with throwing the party because of underage drinking, arrested everybody that was underage, found a shitload of drugs and arrested people for that, then ended up towing a shitload of cars because nobody was sober enough to drive. Even people that were fine to leave didn't get to leave for hours. Yeah, niggas, dipping out of a party before the cops show up is one of the biggest dodge bullets in the fucking world, because depending on the nastiness of the cops, and let's face it, like I told you guys before, 10 out of 10 cops are dirtbag assholes, you know what I mean? They just gonna fuck you. They're gonna find something to fuck you on. Even if you're unfuckable, they're gonna make you fuckable. The cops will fuck the unfuckable. As we proceed, we arrive at number 32. I went to a Catholic grade school in the 70s and 80s. We had a priest that was very friendly with the students and much loved. He used to play pickup basketball with the players on the basketball team. We were playing after hours, and afterward he invited us to use the rectory. He was drinking beer, was joking and swearing, and told us not to tell anyone. I was in 8th grade, but this felt wrong. I found out years later he was raping the altar boys. Shit, man, shit. And the Catholic Church knew about it and covered it up. Now that's my Mari. I appreciate you, girl. Bing bong. Mwah. Girl. All night tonight. I hope she patches things up with her boyfriend, because I know she's all bent out of shape about that. The Catholic Church knew about it and covered it up. Once the scandal blew up, he ran off to Mexico and killed himself. What the fuck? Number 31. I got off the subway at night. There was one other person about half a block behind me on my route home. This is a totally normal thing. Has happened about 5,000 times. Not that 5,000, just thousands of times. Totally normal looking dude. Not even following me that closely, but I had a bad feeling. Such a bad feeling that when I turned the corner on my way home, I broke into a dead sprint and hid behind a dumpster in the shadows part way down the street. By the time he came around the corner, I was well hidden and could see him from my hiding place. As soon as I saw him, his reaction to the fact that I was not there, I knew that had been right to hide. He started looking for me, muttering to himself. He went up and down the street looking around corners. I hid and held my breath until he was gone. It was terrifying. I am so glad I had that sudden, inexplicable impulse to hide. And I'm glad that I listened to it. Number 30. Not me, but my mom. And I'm doing my best to recall the story. She mentioned it to me a few months ago. My mom has been a psych nurse for over 30 years at a private hospital. One of the patients she was looking after was a very boisterous person in her 40s, and she had been in the hospital for over a week. One night, Mom noticed this lady was very lethargic, saying that she just felt tired and was going to have an early night and to get her meds early. This isn't going where you'd expect. Mom thinks this is very odd for the lady, but everyone has off days, and so she gives the lady her medicine and she goes off to bed. About 5 minutes pass and Mom still has a knot in her gut about this lady and thinks that she'll just check her stats. So she goes to her room where the lady is just about to lay down and checks her blood. Her blood pressure, pulse, and oxygen saturation. This is pretty rarely done in a psych hospital unless people have other health concerns that need monitoring. The lady's oxygen saturation was down to around 80%, I believe, doing the best to recall. To put it in perspective, if it falls below 92, your cells can't absorb more oxygen, and this can cause permanent damage. Mom, in her over 40 years of nursing, has never seen someone with such a low level. She checks again, and the same result. Mom calls in an ambulance and gets this lady on oxygen. Later that night, Mom gets a call from the hospital, and the patient was sent to from the doctor, who lets Mom know that the lady is fine. She had a blood clot. If she had been left for another 15 minutes, the doctor is certain she would have died. The lady made a full recovery and gave Mom a beautiful scarf the next time she saw her. Somebody says, I just checked and I was very wrong about the 80%. It had dropped to 33. This nigga's fucking profile picture is that of a giraffe. What is happening in my life? What is with the giraffes? But as we continue, number 29. Not so much a bad feeling, but I think it feels appropriate. I was a freshman in high school, going out for football for the first time. I'm pretty average, probably on the scrawny side. About 2 weeks into practice, I start having terrible back pain. I told my mom, who said, you just sore, suck it up. So I did for a while. I kept going to practice for a week before I finally had to tell my mom she can take me to a hospital or I will go without her. So she sets up an appointment, and turns out I had slightly broken a vertebrae, tiny cracks on each side of the same vertebrae. Safe to say, I don't take her advice much anymore. I think all of us have a incident where we stop, taking our parents' advice before just following our own hearts, you know what I mean? Listen to your heart when it's coming for you. Well, as we continue, number 28. Attractive girl used to stare at me in the dining hall freshman year, but something about her just screamed insane. Now I'm a senior, and my buddy banged that girl for about a month. Now she randomly shows up at his apartment and will sleep on their couch even after he told her he didn't want anything to do with her. Ugh. That's like a Quagmire horror story. I think I can fly through the rest of these. I believe in myself. Number 27. A couple of years ago, we had a young dog who had epilepsy. Of course, we had to get him meds multiple times a day to help with it. One day, he basically just stopped eating. After a day or two, I told my parents that we should take him to a vet. Q, no, he'll get over it. About a week later, he's still not eating, and we take him to a vet for a periodic checkup. Turns out, he has liver failure that is almost guaranteed to progress into heart failure. We ended up having to put him down a couple of days later, simply because we didn't want him to suffer. I fucking told you, Mom. Oh, these entries are starting to get a fucking theme to them, if you know what I'm saying. If you know what I'm saying, alright? Happy Halloween. Special shout out to my man Lexius. My man Lexius. As we roll up to number 26, a guy came to the door one day looking for my mom. I was probably 13 at the time. Immediately, I had the most of my body behind the door, ready to shut it. I just had this weird feeling about him. He said he hadn't seen her in a long time and that he was just coming from church and was in the neighborhood. Okay, so this guy is trying to communicate that he's a good person and that his weird smile just made me trust him less. I told him my mom was napping. She wasn't. She was at work. So he left a note for her with his name and number on it. I took it, closed, and locked the door. Then I looked at the note and immediately recognized the name. It was my uncle. I hadn't seen him since I was 5. He went to jail for murdering my aunt and cousin. Oh my God. Fucking dank, motherfucker. That's titties out dank right there. Number 25. I had a math teacher in middle school who came off as creepy. He would try and get close to us guys and try to act like an old friend. He seemed afraid of girls for some reason. I didn't like him. He gave me a very bad feeling. After about a year at our school, He wasn't there suddenly. We had a police officer come in, sit us down, and interview everyone individually. It turns out that he was caught having a jerk-off party with some of his former male students from his previous school. He was sent to prison.
We gonna have a jack party at Craig's house. Craig the teacher? Yeah, man, jack party.
What the fuck? What the fuck? A jack party at Craig's house? Number 24. Deleted. Son of a bitch. Number 23. Not me, but my coworker. She got a call that her sister-in-law didn't show up for work and didn't call or anything. She's been working 3 jobs recently and was complaining that she needed a good night's sleep. Coworker said she probably slept through the alarm clock, but her husband insisted that she go home and check on her because it wasn't like the sister-in-law to not show up for work. Coworker was annoyed, but did it since her house was only 20 minutes away. Coworker gets there, and it turns out that she had overdosed on some sort of opioid and then had a heart attack. Oxygen levels were extremely low. Paramedics said that if the coworker hadn't got home when she did, that the sister-in-law would have been dead within minutes. Thank God her husband had that feeling and sent someone because he thought something was wrong. Always go with your guts. Go with my gut, huh? My gut, huh? The Kyle gut. Number 22. When I was younger, we would go visit my aunt a lot. Her brother-in-law was often there, and sometimes watched her kids for her. Well, me and my sister just really didn't like him. We told our mom he made us uncomfortable, and that we didn't want to be around him, even though he never did or said anything that was technically bad. Sometime later, it was discovered that not only was he sexually abusing his teenage daughter, but that he and his girlfriend were raping my infant cousin and taking photos of it? What the fuck? He's in jail now for a very, very long time. You don't go to jail for that. You go to prison for that, nigga. You go to prison for that shit, baby. Fucking an infant? Nothing scarier to me than when both parents are getting in on that hibbledy-grosh. On that flibbledy-bloop. The underaged emoji is rolling out in the stream chat. Oh, no. That's what it's called. Oh my god. Oh my god. Number 21. On a recent date with my girlfriend, I couldn't place it at all. She was herself, if not a little more playful. She looked like herself in jeans and a hoodie. I just couldn't quite place it until we got home, and it turned out she was wearing a strap-on harness all night. I have no idea how that was comfortable. Number 20. 2 years ago, I was on my way back home on my bike. I had to go over a bridge. On one side of the bridge, there was a girl crying. On the bridge, 2 14-year-olds, one pretty tall, one pretty small, head to head, seemingly about to get into a fight. When I went by, they stood back. I thought something was off, but I told myself fighting among 14-year-olds over what I thought was a girlfriend is normal and not dangerous, right? Turns out the taller one of the boys jumped off the bridge to commit suicide only minutes after I passed. The smaller one couldn't physically hold him back. Had I stopped, listened to my gut feeling, I might have been able to help and talk him out of it. Oh boy. That's fucking metal. He didn't get on social media and goes, guys, I'm gonna fucking do it, guys. I'm gonna fucking do it. That's how it's gonna be with me. It's just gonna be like one day. If it happens, it's gonna be like this. Ain't gonna be no talking. The time for words has passed. So we travel up to number 19. Forgive me, I keep applying more Vicks Vapor Rub because I feel like my nostrils aren't clearing, and I'm getting progressively more and more stuffy as we roll up. Number 19. My sister was 18 years old and bought a horse from a guy who was married and 47 years old. My parents liked the guy and became friends with him and his wife. I knew something was up because he and my sister would talk constantly on the phone. My mom actually asked his wife if that was cool and said it was totally fine. He did this a lot with other kids who needed horse advice. Yeah. My parents went to send my sister to stay with this guy for a whole summer so she could ride and show horses. I told them the relationship was clearly inappropriate and not to do it. They were like, if the wife doesn't mind, then who cares? Within 2 months, he had left the wife. Within 4 months, they were engaged. 4 months after that, they got married. 1 week after that, my sister was pregnant. 47, motherfucker. 47. I'm not sure I know how to deal with that. A 30-year fucking age difference, homie. Holy shit. Yeah, Big Worm Kevin says, it's sick shit, but it's still legal. Yeah, can't get your rocks off unless it's technically illegal. Depends on where you are sometimes, man. Depends on where you guys live in, whether it's legal or not, technically, you know what I mean? Ridiculous. Number 18. The one I best remember was about 10 years back. I was a groomsman at a friend's wedding. Partway through the reception, I was suddenly struck with a feeling of impending doom. They are going to play the chicken dance next. Frantically, I started searching for someone, crying, let's go smoke, who wants to go smoke? I don't even smoke, but it wasn't hard to get a group together. When I came back, sure enough, the chicken dance had been danced, and I was the only member of the wedding party to escape its embarrassing talons. My man. My man. As we travel up to number 17. At a research institute, I walked into a mouse procedure surgery room for a quick moment to grab something and leave. After walking out, I felt, well, to be honest, like I was a little high. There were 3 other people in that room, including 2 undergraduates, so I got worried and went back inside to check things out. When I got back inside, I asked if they were feeling okay. One of the undergrads turned to me and said she was fine, but was flushed and looked a little out of it. So I went around to all of the isoflurane chambers, these odorless volatile liquid that knocks out animals or mammals at low doses and kills them at higher doses, looking for leaks. Sure enough, the gasket at the bottom of one of the chambers had failed, and when it was leaking out, immediately boiling into gas and filling the room. I told them their isoflurane was leaking, and the postdoc told me that they were fine and that he uses that machine all the time. He also pointed out that the isoflurane was an curtained biosafety cabinet, and so even the leak, they were protected. I called him an idiot because biosafety cabinet recirculates air and doesn't evacuate it from a fume hood, which is what he should have been using. So I ignored him, propped open the door, and ordered the undergraduates to get out of the room. I then went to their lab manager and told her what I had found. Their lab manager came down like the wrath of God. Somebody needs to make me come down. You know what I'm talking about? Oh, damn. Number 16. The following is a repost from an earlier thread, but it's even more relevant here. A former coworker, Jason, told me this story. Jason was working at a dock in China that looked something like this. And unloaded shipping containers from huge international cargo ships. A typhoon had just passed, and many of the inbound ships had been delayed for days due to the extreme weather. Once the weather was cleared, there was a backlog of ships waiting to be docked and unloaded. To make matters worse, a tropical depression had just been upgraded to a tropical storm and was expected to make landfall within 48 hours. It was organized chaos as the dock workers frantically tried to unload 3 times the volume of shipping containers in half the time. Jason was a senior cargo agent, and his job was to verify that this information on the offloaded ship containers matched the information on the manifest and to visually inspect shipping containers for damage. A cargo agent had to sign off on all the cargo before an unloaded ship could disembark. As there were a limited number of spaces for ships to dock, it was critical that cargo agents verify the unloaded shipments as quickly as possible so that another ship could dock immediately. Everyone at the dock was wearing walkie-talkies, handheld portable two-way radios, in case niggas don't know what a fucking walkie-talkie is, nigga, what the fuck. And Jason heard dock manager 1 going absolutely apeshit because an unloaded ship had been waiting in the dock for nearly 2 hours and no cargo agent had verified their delivery. Jason radioed cargo agent 1 assigned to that area and there was no answer. He then radioed cargo agent 2 and still received no response. He then radioed the next closest senior cargo agent 1 and asked him to drop everything and verify the cargo immediately. After 30 minutes, dock manager 2 radioed that the ship was still docked. Jason radioed senior cargo agent 1, who he had just sent over there, and did not receive a response. He then radioed dock manager 1, who had been screaming into the radio, and again received no response. Nigga, is this gonna be aliens? Did y'all get swept up into the fucking hurricane? What is all of this about? Jason has now the only senior cargo agent in there, and it now fell to him to verify the unloaded shipment and get the delayed ship out of the port ASAP. Did these niggas pass out from some kind of chemical monkey balls out there? As he got into his truck to drive over, a nagging feeling of dread kept telling him not to go. He ignored the feeling and drove there anyway, all the while trying and failing to radio anyone else in the area. When he arrived at the unloading zone, he couldn't bring himself to get out of the truck, and later said that it felt as if he was being physically pushed back into his seat. Jason then picked up his radio with a shaking hand and broadcast, "Unknown threat near unloading section 4. All workers evacuate immediately. This is not a drill." And just like that, a multi-billion-dollar port was shut down. A hazmat team was soon dispatched and found that a shipping container damaged in transit had been carrying heavier than air inert gas. The gas leaked and displaced the air, then became trapped between several rows of closely stacked shipping containers. Every person that approached immediately lost consciousness. 5 people were found dead near the damaged container, and Jason was later fired because he did not actually have the authority to shut down the port. Jason filed the Chinese equivalent of a wrongful termination lawsuit, but was strongly encouraged to settle, or else the Chinese government might find him partially responsible for the workers' deaths as a white foreigner in China. This was very real as a possibility, and he ended up settling for a modest amount. Jason still blames himself for the death of Senior Cargo Agent 1 and gave the settlement amount to the man's widow. Damn. That's a pretty gnarly story, man. Talking about Bing Bong because it happened over in China. As we continue, we arrive at number 15. My father started publicly dating a woman shortly after my mom died. I later learned that she likely the woman he'd been having an affair with before she died. I liked her. One evening, my father took me to the side and asked me how I'd feel about him asking her to marry him. I got an awful feeling in the pit of my stomach and felt nauseated. I told my father I didn't want him to, and he asked why, as he thought that I liked her. I explained that I did like her, but had a feeling about her, and he says that's just a feeling, they don't mean anything. He already had the ring and proposed straight away, and I got really excited about the engagement, the wedding, the move, the house, and my impending little sister. After the wedding, she changed. After my half-sister was born, she went batshit. She abused me, my full sister, my mother's child, and later my half-sister, her own child. She only left her when my doctor told him something was clearly going on with her that was affecting my health. She was putting a substance that I'm intolerant to in my food, and my father wouldn't believe me and would force me to eat whatever she made. However, I couldn't get a doctor alone without her to tell them. And my maternal grandmother told him if he didn't leave her, she'd go for custody, and he finally left her. He accused me of lying for the entire time leading up to that, and was never asked me about any of my attempts to get help since. Look, man, just because someone's technically related to you doesn't mean they can't be a fucking scumbag, dude. And you guys need to get the hell out when the getting's good, because you might find yourself trapped. Nobody wants that. Number 14. Not me, but my mom. When I was about 10 years old, I got invited to spend the night at my really good friend's home. My mom said no. I begged her to let me go, but she was adamant that I couldn't. She said she didn't feel right about it, and that no amount of pleading was going to change her mind. A few weeks later, my friend's dad was arrested for child pornography. God damn. After he went to trial, it was found that he had also molested several young girls. He would have his daughter invite them over for slumber parties and then touch them when they went to sleep. If my mom hadn't trusted her gut feeling, I could have been one of those victims. Tiffany responds, "This is all too real. When I was 8 years old, second or third grade, I can't remember which, I stayed the night with at one of my friend's houses. She lived in the house right beside ours. I woke up in the middle of the night to her dad performing oral sex on me. Oh my God. Years later, I had to testify in court because turns out he had been molesting, raping his children. Oh my glorb. Number 13. I used to be a lifeguard in a very small gated community with a lot of wealthy people. I also used to sing at the local church services. I met the pastor in that context, and something about him just seemed off. It wasn't anything I'd be able to articulate, I just didn't like him. He just made my gut drop. Later I noticed that the local pastor was spending a lot of time at the pool watching the little kids swim, one little boy in particular. He would have a towel ready for him. He'd have the kid sit on his lap to dry off. As far as I knew, he wasn't babysitting him. He was just there, watching and touching. It made my hackles rise. I told his parents that the way that the pastor was interacting with their son made me uncomfortable. They investigated it, and it turns out the pastor was going to their home when they weren't there and spending time with the little boy in his bedroom. They didn't give him any more details than that, but it was implied that something sexual had been going on. I don't know what happened to him after that, but he was obviously removed as pastor from the church. It's so important to trust your gut on these things. Just found out that one of my high school football coaches was caught diddling a student a few weeks ago. Oh my God. Number 12. My grandparents were driving up a steep mountain road behind a logging truck when my grandmother started having a mild panic attack. She just kept saying, "Something's not right, pull over. We need to pull over." So my grandpa did and settled her down. After a few moments, she was fine and they kept driving. A mile or two up the road, the load of trees had come loose and spilled off the truck. Interesting. Somebody said, "That's some real Final Destination bullshit right there, if I've ever heard it." Well. Number 11. It's 1:30 a.m., raining. I was riding my motorcycle down a 4-lane road, 2 lanes each direction, and I saw a car approach a stop sign, perpendicular to me. It was the parking lot of a bar, and I thought to myself, he's going to turn left in front of me. I was going 45 miles an hour, let off of the throttle, and about 200 to 200 feet from him, he did exactly what I thought he was going to do, grabbed my front and rear brakes, back tire locked up, and kicked out to the left. I had maybe 40 to 50 feet in which I would either high side in front of the car and likely be ran over, slam into the car door or rear driver door, or jump off to the right in the truck and roll fashion. A tuck and roll fashion. I jumped and my motorcycle slammed into the rear driver's side of his car, and I had a couple of scratches, bruises, and a sore tailbone, but I wasn't ran over by hanging out in his back seat via glass window. Lexia says a tree once fell off a truck and hit your car. That sounds scary as hell, Lexia. I'm glad that you weren't severely injured. That is some gangster shit. Lexia goes on to say, surprisingly not the most terrifying moment. What was? Number 10. I work at a psych hospital. I was in the cafe with an adult unit, and an adolescent unit was also there. I had known one of those kids from when she was on the children's, and normally we had a good rapport. I went to say hi and told her I was proud and she had been staying out of trouble. A few of the other girls reacted weirdly to me saying it, and the girl looked guilty. I told the staff on unit and said that they should keep an extra eye on the girls because I had bad vibes about it. The staff kind of brushed me off. A few hours later, four 4 girls, including the one that I knew, literally almost killed the 2 staff. One got her head bashed in and suffered brain trauma, and the other staff was blinded in one eye. Jesus Christ. I didn't know it was dank like that at a fucking psych ward. What the fuck? Somebody responds, fuck, I work in a hospital and I've had a bad feeling on more than one occasion. Nothing that signaled an immediate threat to me, but I've seen families come in from odd places and felt something very wrong and sickening. One family I remembered particularly, the mother was near 100 and clearly had a very low quality of life at this point, contorted, bedridden, dementia, etc. Her daughters wanted every last test done to this poor woman. One daughter in particular was especially unsavory, seemed to look at her mother with a sense of sick pleasure. It was totally speculative, but I felt like this was revenge for them. It's possible I totally misjudged them, but I couldn't shake this feeling in my gut. Lexia says that the most terrifying moment was when I was choking on some food until I finally got it down, or when a driver went through a red light and almost hit me. Choking on food is no joke. There have been times where like I do that and it gets in the windpipe and I know I can't get it out and I can't get it down and I'm grabbing for water and my eyes are immediately welling up and I'm thinking to myself, what a shit way to go. What a shit way to go. Because sometimes you feel like you're gonna fucking die. And I only feel like I've been lucky to make it through. The times that I felt like I was choking, dude. Holy shit. Number 9. My mom had won. I was there with my brother, but we didn't believe her at the time. 3 years ago, my brother and my sister and I were supposed to meet at my mom's place for dinner at 7. My mom and sister are very close. Her being the firstborn, the only girl, and us being a Lebanese family. Anyway, they talk throughout the day quite a bit. Around 6:30 p.m., my sister is not answering phones or texts. My brother and I think she's asleep or just doing whatever, and it's nothing to worry about. By 7:15, still nothing from my sister and my mom, and at this point, it's pretty much saying something is wrong here. I can just feel it. We still don't believe her, but it's not her style to worry, and she is really now worrying. I call up her now ex-husband, who was at a conference, saying that he hasn't heard from my sister. It turns out neither has he. I'm telling him that I hadn't heard from the sister, and it turns out that neither has he. He asked if I knew her iTunes credentials so I could track her phone. Turns out she was at home. We called a friend, sent someone knocking on the door, no answer. My mom started driving there and made the decision that we need to break into the house. She texted her friend to kick the door down. They did and found my sister unconscious. She had a major stroke and a concussion. The aftermath was very, very difficult. I won't write a novel and I'll be brief, but a major stroke, a concussion, and required open heart surgery. Was told she may never talk and would likely be a vegetable, and if we actually wanted to proceed with the surgeries, we did. She's alive, she talks, she can walk with a cane, and will at some point walk without a cane. She lost everything on the left side of her body. The only part of her that may never come back is her left arm. Number 8. Not mine, but my grandma's. We went camping at this one spot in the woods by a small creek every summer. One summer, she gets this bad feeling and makes us pack up and we leave. A couple days later, they end up finding a dead body right near our campsite. Number 7. Not so much something very wrong, but a bunch of my friends wanted to go to this party when I was like 20 years old. I was sort of like, I don't know, I really don't want to go to this place with these people. Turns out 2 of my friends got into an argument with people who lived there, got kicked out, were super hammered, and drove home angry. Car flipped 3 or 4 times, wrecked about another 4 cars. My one friend leaves with a small concussion, the other leaves with like 8 broken bones and walking therapy for about 2 years. The best part is, the emergency responders said if anyone was in the back seat, they would be dead. And that's where I would have been sitting. Mari says that she had an asthma attack while getting a wisdom tooth pulled. And Prelude to Tom Morrow says at 13 years old, his mom started coughing at the dinner table, and all she could do is look at him. Her eyes watered up, and I just went into save my mom mode. My mom would have died. I'm glad that you were the hero that was necessary at that juncture. Number 6. This happened almost 30 years ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday. I was probably 8 or 9 at the time. Probably. You remember it like it was yesterday? And had been at the store buying candy for the weekend with the girl from next door. She was 1 year younger than me. A car stopped, and the man inside opened the passenger door and asked me and my friend to get in the car. He was picking us up for her parents, he told us. I could not shake the feeling that something was wrong, and remember thinking, this is what my parents were talking about. I grabbed my friend's hand, said that we lived in that house right over there, and pulled my friend with me. Went to their door, rang the bell, went straight in, and told the people living there that what happened. Turned out I was right. We were about to get kidnapped. Somebody else comments. This was about 15 years ago. My parents went out for a nice dinner for their anniversary and decided that I was old enough and responsible enough to be left alone for a few hours on the weeknight. I was almost 9 and we owned a fairly protective dog, and it was at the time, so it all seemed fine. They leave, tell me to lock up and to call if anything happens. I do so and proceed to party around the house like a rock star. Cause dude, I have the whole dang house to myself and I can do whatever I want. Hell to the yeah. Halfway through a Sailor Moon marathon, I get a knock on my door and I'm confused as all get out cause... Maybe I'm confused as all hell because it's only been about 2 hours and they said that they probably wouldn't be coming home until around 10. I guess Mama has left something she needed again and swung by to grab it. My front door is a system of 2 doors, a super old thick wooden door, and the house was originally built in the 30s, and this door is still the original piece. And then an outside of that at the time, a screen door, and my dog is raising hell at the front door. But I just pull her back to calm her down, because she has a tendency to be reactive to most noises. Welp, it's not my mom at the door. Some middle-aged man I've never met before in my life. Popo is now basically feral, so I kept the screen door firmly closed and a hand on her collar as I asked the man what he wants. He starts in this weird convoluted story about how he has 2 young twin daughters and how they got into a fight and that one of them ran away. Now this man then claims that he believes his daughter is hiding in my house and would like to come look for her. I tell him no such girl is here, and why does he think that she would be in here in the first place? He goes into another long story about how this is the house that they first lived in and, you know, blah, 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 blah. It's where she was born and how it was like a safe place for her and would be the most likely place she would run away to. So I felt kind of weird since I opened the door and this dude's story hasn't been helping this cause. But I know something shitty is going down, and I, in no uncertain terms, inform the guy that he must have the wrong house because this house was built and has been lived in by my family since its construction. My dad was born in that house, and after my mom and dad told his parents that they were pregnant with my older sister, they gave it to them as a present to begin their family. He must have been mistaken because I know all of this to be fact. Hell. Oh God, that scared the shit out of me. Hell, there were pictures less than 10 feet away from me on the wall of my dad and uncles playing in front yard in the late 70s. By now, oh my God, write me a book, you motherfucker. By now. My dog is growling like crazy and the dude is getting kind of agitated. He insists that I don't know what I'm talking about and that if I would just give him a few minutes to search for his daughter, he could be on his way. The latch on the screen door was broken and I was putting all my strength at the time in holding my dog from the door. He opens the screen door with one hand and with the other reaches for my closest arm. My crazy cocker goes fucking ballistic, uses all his strength to lunge at him, gets a hold of his hand, bites down. Now the man is yelling and confused. He pushes back against the screen door and slams it shut to get my dog off of him. Sadie gets pushed back indoors, but is still raging. I quickly slam the front door, lock it, and chain it shut. Run around the house and make sure all the other doors and windows are locked, and then hunker down in the bathroom hyperventilating, wait about 15 minutes until Sadie's growling has calmed some, check outside, no man or his car, both long gone. I call my parents and tell them that they need to come home right now, please. When they get home, I recount the whole story. Dad goes on to check the front door, and sure enough, on the screen door jamb and sliding house is a large smear of blood. Sadie was treated like a queen and got a whole steak for her to eat that weekend. Of course, Reddit only wants pictures of the stupid dog. Oh my God. Yep, that's the dog we're imagining. That dog drew some blood on that guy. Hey, look, I'm trying to get in. My daughter's in there. I just need to look around. I'm gonna fuck you, girl. I'm gonna fuck. I mean, look, my daughter's in there. Some shit like that. Come out. Kyle, you asked for that. You read a response to an entry. In a list of 75 things that I have read uninterrupted for 2 hours, we're coming down to the last 5. Here's hoping you had a fantastic Halloween. And that, you know, if it wasn't that great, that tomorrow will be even better for you. I wish you the best. I love you. We're traveling to number 5. When I was a little kid, I stepped outside to walk home from my neighbor's 2 doors over. I smelled what I knew was a beer, which are common where I live. If you've ever smelled a bear, Kyle, God damn it. Ooh, man. You smelled a bear? Okay, man, get through it. I smelled what I knew was a bear, which are common where I live. If you've ever smelled a black bear, it's not that different from a skunk, which is what my friend's mom told me. It probably was when I asked her to drive me home, even though my house was literally right around the corner. The thing is, a skunk smell is strong, but doesn't like travel. A bear smell is more permeating. Begrudgingly, she drove me, only to see the bear sitting on my back steps outside the door I would have tried to enter my house with. Black bears aren't that vicious, but my friend's mom apologized immediately about not believing me. Could have walked straight into that fucking thing at the age of 12. Number 4. We had a serial killer in South Carolina a couple of years ago. No one knew what he looked like yet, but he had already killed 3 people at this point. Well, my granny had lived alone since my pawpaw passed about 15 years ago. She lived at the end of a long dirt road with about 10 other families, but the closest one was about 1/4 a mile up the road. One afternoon, some random guy comes knocking on the front door of her house. My granny is a practical woman. She has never been to school because she grew up on a farm and was expected to pull her weight, but she is smart. She goes to the door, but doesn't open it. The 40-ish-year-old man is there asking if he can use the phone since his car broke down. Granny doesn't like the look of this guy. If he doesn't live there, there is no reason for him to be on this road. And if he was visiting someone, their house or anyone else's house would have been closer since she lives on a dead end. Anyway, she tells him that no, he can't use her phone and that he needs to leave. She backs up and picks up my pawpaw's 410 as she goes. Once he sees the shotgun, he hightails it out of there. About a week later, cops finally catch the serial killer, and lo and behold, it's the same damn man. Ugh. Number 3. Went for a weekend away with a group from my local scouting area back in the 80s. I didn't know them all. Went to make up with the numbers and get some climbing, canoeing, and caving done. We stayed in a rented house in the Peak District. One evening, a few guys went out to try bouldering, climbing boulders 10 to 15 meters high. I got there, took one look, and said, nah. We have no climbing gear, and it's high enough to die falling from. I got the Mickey Mouse, chicken, etc. So I left them to it and walked back. An hour later, one guy fell 10 meters, split his skull open on the rocks below, killed instantly. Number 2. I was at a party when I was in college when 2 older dudes showed up. The place was packed and most people were drunk, but I noticed something was a bit off about them. They never smiled, weren't really talking to anyone. Finally, someone accused them of feeling around in their back pocket, and it turned out they were lifting wallets from drunk college kids. Once confronted, one of the guys stabbed the kid in the stomach with a small knife, and they left slowly and were never caught. It was pretty surreal. The kid who got stabbed turned out fine. Someone responds, that was way crazier than where I thought it was going. I had a similar situation in college where it was 2 guys in Hooters t-shirts that nobody knew who were keeping entirely to themselves. They would just smile and walk away when people approached them to ask who they were. Turns out they were undercover cops. They didn't stab anyone or steal anything, but they totally ruined the party. Hooters t-shirts, cops. Hooters t-shirts. Thank you for joining me this evening. As usual, I have to issue a special and unbelievable thanks to my dank-ass patrons for going above and beyond in the whole being there for me thing. I don't know how they do it, but they manage. I also want to thank my sponsors for jumping on almost immediately to support me in ways that I couldn't even understand. Bing bong. Want to thank all of you for being here tonight, joining me. You know, it always makes me feel great for you to be here, dropping your likes, bullshit like that. Want to give a special thanks to Schwann's, Whole Wheat Bread, Mari S, and especially Lexeus. You're my man, Lexeus. And I want to thank all the mods for doing what you do. You guys are policing that stream in a big way. And I don't think you enough. But as we finish the list of 75 awful gut feelings that turned out to be true, we arrive at number 1. Airline pilot here. One day we loaded up passengers and cargo and everything, and we were ready to taxi. I noticed that the nose of the airplane seemed to be higher up than usual while we were sitting on the ground. I told my first officer about it and he agreed. We double-checked the weight and balance, and everything seemed to be right. I decided to just taxi out towards the runway and see if the wheel struts would go back to their normal positions. During taxi. They didn't. Still felt weird to me, something wasn't right. I told ground control we needed to get back to the gate, called ops and told them that we're headed back because I think something isn't right with the weight and the balance. After we get back, I asked them to check how much ballast we have on the aircraft. It's verified on my sheet as 500, but I have a feeling. Turns out, yep, they forgot to put it in the plane. So had we taken off, the center of gravity would have been out of whack, way past limits. It could have resulted in an airplane that was impossible to control, just like that 747 that took off and had the load slide to the back. Oh my God. Oh shit. Oh shit. That was a day that I was really pleased that I had so much experience flying to give me that feeling, and that feeling could very well have saved my life along with the lives of the other people on board. Well, thank you for joining me this Halloween. I know that you guys are really popular. You guys have friends that are all about you and you're all about you. And you guys could be anywhere, but you decided to stop by, if even for a moment. And I appreciate that. Maybe tomorrow you can run out and get some cheap ass candy that they're trying to get rid of. That's what I want. Cheap ass candy that they're getting rid of. Now that Halloween's over, Bing Bong, do you think we could even go to Amazon and get like cheap ass Halloween candy? That's what I want. I want some of them Butterfingers. You know what I'm talking about? I'm getting that Tootsie Roll. Let me see here. Kit Kat. Give me that Kit Kat. Give me that Kit Kat. Oh, give me that Twix now. Give me that. Come on. Where the Twix now? Man, never mind. I don't care. I love all of you. You guys are like insane. We should go to eye bleach. Oh, look at this floofy little floof doof. And the poop a doop. Pupper. Andy Dick has been fired from his upcoming indie film Raising Buchanan over multiple sexual harassment and misconduct allegations on set. I feel like the times have finally caught up with Andy Dick, dude. The times, they are a-changing. Somebody says this has got to be the least shocking Hollywood harassment news to come to light. Guys, I'm not going to talk your ear off. I know that you've probably got people to talk to and things to do, but did you guys hear about this New York thing that happened earlier today? Where some guy just ran over a whole bunch of people. Pretty fucking ridiculous. Pretty fucking ridiculous, man. And it's just fucking confusing. Do you know what I mean? It's utterly confusing. Sorry, I'm not certain what I can and can't show. But the confusion of it, okay, is that people want to say this was a terrorist thing. And for people who don't know, you know, some dude jumped in the truck, ran over some people, and there were like 8 people fucking dead. You know, in the aftermath of this fucking thing. Like people fucking died because some dude jumped in a truck and rolled down the street. But the confusion to me is like, I'm not saying that terrorists are smart people, but they seem to have the whole do what you're going to do in a crowd thing understood. Do you get what I'm saying? This wasn't a dude driving down a fucking sidewalk outside of a club when everybody was grouped up trying to get in. This wasn't a dude that waited until all the kids were out for trick-or-treating to roll down the street and really rack up a body count. This was some dude in the middle of the day rolling down like what looked like a cycling path and hitting a couple of dudes for people to go, oh, terrorism. I'm like, nigga, how is this terrorism? This looks like one stupid motherfucker that just was like, you know what I'm going to do? But I heard they got him alive. I don't know how to feel, and I don't know where to go with it. Because it gets more and more confusing the more I think about it. I want to find the original post, though. Where is the original post? Maybe if I type in NY, it'll give me what I had earlier. I think it is going to give it to me. Shots fired in Lower Manhattan. That's what this was. So looking at the post, it says, a guy says, I'm glad they caught this fucker alive. He wasn't able to hurt more people. Him living through this is exactly what he didn't want. Glad they chose the leg and not the head. Fuck that guy. I'm sure they didn't choose the leg. Officers are trained to aim for center of the chest, center mass, yes. This turd just got lucky or unlucky if he wanted to suicide by cop. Been a while, says somebody else, but we aimed low center mass in the military as barrels tend to rise as you shoot. Better to be low leg than too high over the head. And if you start low, you get multiple shots. What are we talking about, guys? What are we talking about? So there was a live threat of the situation. 8 people have died. 15 people have been injured after a vehicular ramming attack that occurred in Lower Manhattan. New York City, 11 of the victims' injuries are described as serious but non-life-threatening. According to NYC Mayor Bill, available information indicates that the incident was an act of terror. What foolishness. You running over a couple of dudes on the sidewalk. What the fuck are you doing? There is no evidence to suggest that the incident was part of a wider terrorist plot. Okay, that makes more sense to me. It's just one man being a fucking psychopath. What the fuck? Well, guys, stay safe, man. Oh boy. Aaron Deere says your boobs would bookmark on the corner. Oh, you're mentioning the bookmarks now. You're such a noob, Aaron. You're such a noob. Are you trying to be a noob, Aaron? Misa thinks you trying to be a noobza. Guys, I love you. Stay safe. And I'll talk to you soon. Hopefully. Bye.